How's it going, everyone? It's me, Vivi, and I'm back with some Spyro content, and this time, I am going to share my thoughts on the Reignited Trilogy. Who would have thought that people would reach a point where they would say, hey, I'm about to review Spyro Reignited Trilogy, a Spyro remake, from merchandise to Falcon McBob. What a journey it's been, and we made it. Here it is. Here's the remake. People have been speculating for a very long time now. It's finally right in our hands. Well, technically, I mean, if you bought the physical, it's in your hands. Anyways, you get it. What a journey. We made it. Here we are. I 100%ed all three. Platinumed all three, and got all skill points. Was it easy? Well, you could argue. I'm going to say, well, not really. At least for the skill points part, but I'll get into that later. This, ladies and gentlemen, will not be a half-hour long video. From what I've been seeing reviews of Spyro, they're all like 30 minutes. I don't know, maybe you thought I would speak for over an hour. I'm not. Maybe you missed my voice that much, you wanted to hear me talk that long. Haha, yeah, I know I'm funny. Now, the premise of this video really is to share my thoughts on the remake itself and how it was handled. It's not like I'm gonna dive into each game individually. This is more about the remake itself. 1 minute and 40 seconds, that's a pretty long intro. Before I get into anything, Spyro 1 and 2 was 100% done by Toys for Bob. As for Spyro 3, according to the credits, they needed a hand. They called in Sanzaru Games. That explains their name in the back cover. In fact, Toys for Bob had tons of help from other teams, probably due to the time given for development. The whole delay thing and all, but I'm not gonna get into that for this video. So with that, thank you to everyone involved. It's been a huge blast playing this, so let's go. From where do I begin? The trilogy, I mean, what am I gonna say? It's insanely beautiful. My sister walks in, me playing the trilogy, saying, wow, this looks beautiful. Indeed it does. Spyro Reignited Trilogy has a very high touch of faithfulness, for sure. From mechanics to visuals, Toys for Bob and everyone did a fantastic job. Concept artists, amazing work, super cool. The remastered soundtrack, I got mixed feelings. Some I like, some I'm not a huge fan of. One example is Treetops, I prefer the original for example. But with that, you have the option to toggle on and off, even for the dynamic part, which is interesting. Picking up this trilogy, it's all about muscle memory. People have been playing the demos and from what they've been saying, they're right about it. It was a huge trip of nostalgia. Toys for Bob even went to lengths to add a very touching Easter egg. I'll leave the link to the story in the description below. Just with that Easter egg alone, it just shows how Toys for Bob was heavily listening to the community. From past trailers comparing them, some changes have been applied. Cutscenes are absolutely beautiful. They even made some changes such as Nasty Nork watching TV in his room, Nasty's loot being his room, Spyro's expression on his face, not to mention Lindar staring at the camera, telling Nasty Nork that he's ugly. Not only Spyro, all the other cast of characters have added a new expression onto their faces. Some scenes got extended, for example, a flashback to Winter Tundra. The extra movements and everything made the scene longer, which I enjoyed a lot. Other changes, for example, Hunter holding a remote in his hand as opposed to typing on the side of the portal in the original. I won't get into all of the changes, maybe you've seen comparison videos, but you probably know what I'm talking about, you get the idea. But these changes for sure added so much more life to these scenes. Toys for Bob's liberties on these scenes really shows, and I'm happy that they went with that. I enjoyed the voice acting. Greg Berger as Ripto again. I loved every second of this remake. The cutscenes especially. My favorite part, should I say? It's like watching a short, cute little movie, and just makes me think of a future Spyro game already. Not to mention the beautiful redesigned dragons. Let's not forget that one. Just these models alone show so much potential for a future game. Like, imagine developing these characters even more with those designs. Honestly, I did prefer some of the old voice acting, something I don't want to forget mentioning, for some NPCs, but overall I enjoyed the experience. Cool thing I should mention, Sparks' health color, his status appears on your controller. Red if he's absent, green and blue, and you know, you get it, it's pretty cool. Spyro lights up when in power-up mode, very nice touch. Now, for sure there's the good, but there's also the low points, right? Although the trilogy remained very faithful, we can't deny the fact that some of the controls felt slightly altered. Did it really affect the experience of gameplay? Not really, but all I'm gonna say is maybe it made it a bit trickier. One of which being gliding and hovering. To hover in this trilogy, you have to glide for a longer time. If not, pressing triangle, the action button, you're just gonna fall to the ground. Reaching some platforms becomes trickier. Supercharging in 3. While Icy Peak, for example, you felt like you were going way ahead of the thieves at one point. They went with a similar route as, the first one, where you speed up and reach a certain speed, as opposed to just being constant. Some minigames in general also felt slower from what I've seen. I guess to make it slightly easier, but it just felt like that to me, of course. Yeti boxing. Probably just me, again. Did it feel simpler? I mean, you can easily mash buttons X and square, and you can easily beat this guy in one round. I'm still not a fan of this minigame section, regardless of this change. As for other characters' gameplay in general, I mean, I don't have anything bad to say really, it felt good. Swimming, slightly trickier as well due to the added momentum when you stop. When you stop, Spyro keeps moving just a little. If you're close to an entrance, you're just gonna get knocked onto the wall, and it forces you to dive deeper, which can get tricky. Sometimes I struggled entering the entrances. The camera, swimming especially, feels too close to Spyro sometimes. The camera just gets all haywire. A bunch of hiccups. Tight corners and stuff. You have the option to use the D-pad? Some perhaps would have benefited from that. I'm just saying, I did not use the D-pad. I sticked strictly to analog. Spyro also walks a bit faster. The game suffered from camera issue. Spyro 3 especially, Molten Crater, I'm looking at you. Playing as Sergeant Bird, oh boy, the camera was drunk. It actually made me restart. Spyro 3 was really the downfall when it comes to glitches and bugs. That permanent frame rate drop when attempting the skill point at Lost Fleet, forget about it. Worst annoying skill point, that's one, but that frame drop afterwards makes you quit the game and re-enter it afterwards, which is a pretty huge deal. Spyro 2 suffered from bad frame rate here and there during load screens especially, and cutscenes here and there. As for other bugs I've encountered, Agent Zero was on the move. During the mission, Spyro would just be stuck there. I had to quit. Winter Tundra, being stuck in grass when respawning. Not to mention invisible climbing walls. Well, ladders. Ladders, that's what I mean. Spyro 1, honestly, it felt the smoothest to me. I didn't really encounter any glitches, annoying bugs, and that tells me that Toys for Bob spent the most amount of time on that one. Oh, I'm forgetting one very important factor. Gulp. In 2 has been made harder. I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt this way. And why? Simply due to the fact that his lasers now follow wherever you go. You shouldn't be supercharging. The orbs will just follow you. Just gonna have to avoid them by jumping and walking carefully. As for the load times, for all 3 in general, they felt longer. But at least Toys for Bob gave us the ability to move Spyro during these load screens. Some were disappointed by the fact that the gems wouldn't drop down to the total, the camera sticking to one angle, sure, but they added the ability to move Spyro. I enjoyed that one, so I'm not too concerned. Oh, before I forget, also you can't use triangle anymore to see your status. Instead, the action button is used for free camera mode, you staring at the scenery and all. To check your status, you have to press L3, which is also used for Sparks' gem finder. Next thing I want to bring up, Spyro went the Crash Bandicoot route in terms of menu design and pause menu. I'm talking about the consistency. Menus look the same layout as Crash, selecting the game you want to play. Each background shows your last save area. Maps have been added for all 3 games. I personally did not use the map at all. It was off the whole time for all 3 games. By the way, for the menu music, it was composed by Stuart Copeland. Fun fact. Now originally, Toys for Bob intended to use different startups for each, looking at this image from the Spyro panel we got months ago. But I guess they removed those, either due to time constraints, or just like that, My biggest problem about this design, the save slot. The save slot design is just poor. To restart a new file, you have to delete all previous saves for other games. Crash Insane Trilogy really wins in that department for sure, and I give props to Vicarious Visions for that loading sequence they added, Crash entering the machine. That was pretty cool. Now yeah, people found that annoying, so with the patch, they added the ability to skip that. I would have loved Reignited Trilogy to have a nice little sequence like that, with the option to skip, of course. Fast travel has also been added to all 3 games. This was, I think, mentioned in articles a long time ago, but I just wanted to bring it up. I honestly found that very useful. Some of you might say, well, it was very nostalgic to, you know, travel from homeworld to homeworld, finding the level you need, but yeah, it's interesting, but I really like the fast travel for all 3 games, by simply pressing X. Originally, it was only part of 3 where you had to press square on the level which you wanted to go at, and it'd be a reward for completing the last Sparks mission originally. Now this became a reminder in Reignited. Same goes for Sparks' Gem Finder, already active throughout, by pressing L3. All 3 games, don't forget. It was originally a reward for completing Sparks' mission. So with that, the extra cutscene for the Gem Finder was just cut from the game. You quit the level, nothing happens. Save system is now automatic. Zoe or the fairy in one, they zap you, and boom, progress saved. Epilogues, this is something that also disappointed me. For some reason, they just scrapped it. Why? Time constraints? I'm also sad there wasn't a trophy for fully completing the skill points. That would have added a layer of challenge. Yeah, you might say, well, you have the reward, you know, being the art gallery, but more challenge, why not? I just want to say something. That skill point in Lost Fleet, I got 145 sharp, and no, that doesn't count apparently. I was very sad. Some trophies brought something new to the series, like finding mushrooms in Beastmakers, the gears in Twilight Harbor, or the secret room in Dreamweavers. It took me a while to find it. Next, the Whirlwind, which was originally cut from Spyro 3, right in front of the entrance of the Sorceress. They put it back in. You reach this small island with 3 health butterflies. In this footage you don't see it because I already took him, but that was pretty cool. Since this is a remake, an option to toggle off Permanent Super Flame would have been great. Permanent Super Flame, if you didn't know, follows through each of your new saves. So what this means is you have to delete save data from your console settings to restart Spyro 2 without the Super Flame. And by doing so, deleting that save data from your system, it deletes everything. So it'd be neat if they come up with some sort of patch for that. Motion blur, it didn't bother me personally, but I did read stories on it, people getting motion sick, I understand. Oh, not to mention, no subtitles. I understand the original didn't have subtitles, but it's 2018. Here's Activision's statement on the matter. When Toys for Bob set out to make an awesome game collection, there were certain decisions that needed to be made throughout the process. The team remained committed to keep the integrity and legacy of Spyro that fans remembered intact. The game was built from the ground up using a new engine for the team, Unreal 4, and was localized in languages that has not previously been attempted by the studio. While there's no industry standard for subtitles, okay, the studio and Activision care about fans' experience, especially with respect to accessibility for people with different abilities, and will evaluate going forward. Big oof from me, it is an industry standard at this point, it's 2018. Some people need subtitles, it's important. I understand Crash Insane Trilogy lacks subtitles as well, that one needs some as well. I'm not saying NST doesn't count, they both do. Hey, but it might happen eventually through a patch. They did say, we'll evaluate going forward. So with everything said, guys, this is it. The trilogy, beautiful, high faithfulness to the originals. I'm sad that they took out the epilogues, no trophy for 100% completion of skill points, no startup sequence. That would have been cute, really. The save slot designs, it's just poor. Glitchiest game out of the 3, Spyro 3, hands down. It didn't break the game, it was still playable, but you can really tell Spyro 3, I guess, needed a bit more polishing, but who knows through future patches and stuff like that. So with that being said, guys, I'm done. This is it for the video, and share your own thoughts in the comments. What did you think of the trilogy? Did you want them to add something specific? Did you want them to remove something you didn't like? For example, would you have liked the idea to have theater room for all 3 games? Now, you had the ability to replay dragons just like the original and Spyro 1, but at least for Spyro 3. But anyways, this is it. I'm going now. Bye. I've been Vivi, and thank you so much for watching. Oh, one thing I forgot. Bombo is now named Bob. There you go.